I have been sitting here for almost an hour thinking about everything that has been happening between us lately, and the truth is that I no longer recognize the relationship we once had. When we first met, everything felt peaceful and genuine. You used to listen to me, value my opinions, and treat me like someone who truly mattered in your life. But now, whenever I try to express my feelings, it turns into an argument where you make me feel like my emotions are somehow a burden to you. I am not asking for perfection, Richard. I am only asking for understanding and respect.
Benita, I honestly do not understand why you keep bringing up these complaints every time we try to have a simple conversation. From my perspective, everything in this relationship is fine, but you always seem determined to turn small issues into something dramatic. I work hard every day, I provide what I can, and I do not see why that is not enough for you. Sometimes I feel like you are just looking for reasons to criticize me.
Richard, this is exactly what I mean when I say you refuse to listen. The problem is not about money or what you provide. The problem is about how you treat me emotionally. When I try to talk to you about something that hurts me, you dismiss it as if my feelings are insignificant. Do you know how painful it is to feel invisible in a relationship where you are supposed to feel loved?
Benita, you are exaggerating again. You are making it sound like I am some terrible man who does not care about you, and that is completely unfair. I have always been confident in myself and in the way I handle things. I cannot change who I am just because you suddenly feel insecure about something.
It is not insecurity, Richard. It is disappointment. I believed that loving someone meant growing together and learning from each other. But every time I try to tell you that something hurts me, you respond with pride instead of empathy. A relationship cannot survive when one person is always right and the other is always wrong.
Maybe the real problem is that you expect too much from me. Not every man is going to sit down and analyze every emotion the way you want. Sometimes things are just the way they are.
And sometimes things aren't because one person refuses to change. Benita, you have been staring at your phone for the past 20 minutes without saying a word. I can see that something is bothering you deeply, and you know you can talk to me about anything. What exactly happened between you and Daniel this time? Maya, I feel like I am slowly losing myself in this relationship. Every time I try to explain to Richard how his words or actions affect me, he reacts as if I am attacking him personally. Instead of trying to understand where I am coming from, he becomes defensive and stubborn. It feels like his pride is more important to him than the health of our relationship. Benita, I have known you for many years, and I have always admired the way you love people with sincerity and patience. But love should never make you feel small or unheard. When a man truly values a woman, he listens to her concerns even when they make him uncomfortable. The fact that Richard refuses to do that is a serious problem. I keep hoping that he will realize what he is doing before it is too late. I know he has a good heart somewhere inside him, but his pride builds this wall between us that I cannot seem to break. I do not want to give up on him, but I also cannot keep pretending that everything is okay when it is clearly not. Benita, sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that you cannot change someone who does not believe they need to change. If Richard continues to choose pride over humility, he might end up losing the very person who has been standing by his side all this time. That is exactly what scares me, Maya. I love him deeply, but I am starting to realize that love alone cannot fix a relationship where respect and understanding are missing.
Richard, you have been unusually quiet today, and that is not like you at all. Normally you are the loudest person in the room, always confident and full of energy. So tell me honestly, what is going on with you? Benita has been complaining again about the way I handle things in our relationship. She keeps saying that I do not listen to her feelings, and that my pride is ruining everything. I do not understand why she cannot just accept me the way I am instead of constantly trying to change me. Richard, I am going to speak to you as a friend who respects you enough to be honest. Sometimes confidence can turn into pride without us even realizing it. When the woman you love keeps telling you that something you do is hurting her, Ignoring it might not be the best approach.
Marcus, you know me. I have always been someone who stands firm in my beliefs. I do not like the idea of admitting that I am wrong every time someone criticizes me. If I start doing that, I will feel like I am losing control over my own life.
But Richard, relationships are not about control. They are about partnership. Admitting that you are wrong sometimes does not make you weak. In fact, it shows maturity and respect for the person you claim to love.
I hear what you are saying, but I still think Benita is overreacting. She should appreciate the things I do instead of focusing on what she thinks I lack.
Just be careful, my friend. A good woman can tolerate a lot of things, but when she finally reaches her limit, she walks away quietly and never looks back.
Richard, I asked you to meet me tonight because there are things inside my heart that I cannot keep holding in anymore. For months I have tried to ignore the growing distance between us, hoping that things would somehow improve on their own. But the truth is that silence has only made everything heavier for me. I feel like I am carrying the entire emotional weight of this relationship by myself, and it is exhausting.
Benita, I thought we already talked about this situation many times before. Every time we meet, the conversation somehow comes back to the same complaints. I do not understand why you keep insisting that something is wrong between us when I believe things are perfectly manageable.
Richard, that is exactly the problem. You believe everything is fine, because you refuse to look at the situation from my perspective. When you dismiss my feelings so easily, it makes me feel like I do not matter to you the way I thought I did. A relationship cannot survive if only one person is willing to listen and understand.
You are making this more complicated than it needs to be. Sometimes relationships go through phases where things are not perfect, but that does not mean we need to question everything. I think you are focusing too much on emotions instead of appreciating the stability we already have.
Richard, stability without emotional connection feels like loneliness inside a relationship. I do not need a relationship where I feel like I am living beside someone instead of living with someone. I want a partner who is willing to grow with me, someone who can admit mistakes and try to do better.
Benita, I am not someone who easily admits fault when I do not believe I have done anything wrong. I have always believed that strength comes from standing firm in who you are.
And I have always believed that true strength comes from humility and the willingness to grow. The question is whether your pride will always be more important to you than the love we share. Benita, I can see the sadness in your eyes even before you say a word. You have always been someone who carries her emotions quietly, but today it feels like the weight of everything is finally showing on your face. Tell me honestly, how bad has it become between you and Richard? Maya, I feel like I am slowly accepting something that I have been afraid to admit for a long time. Richard loves being right more than he loves understanding me. Every time I open my heart to him, he turns the conversation into a debate where his pride becomes the only thing that matters. That must be incredibly painful, especially for someone like you who gives so much love and patience in a relationship. You have always been the kind of woman who supports the people you care about without expecting much in return. But even the strongest hearts have limits. I know that, and that is why I feel so conflicted. Part of me wants to keep fighting for this relationship, because I remember the man Richard used to be when we first met. He was kind, attentive, and emotionally present. But the other part of me feels like I am holding on to memories instead of reality. Benita, sometimes the most difficult decision in life is accepting that the person we love is no longer the person we thought they were. People can change, and not always for the better. If Richard refuses to listen to your pain, then he is forcing you to choose between your happiness and his pride. I never imagined that loving someone could become this confusing. I thought love was supposed to feel safe and supportive, not like a constant battle to be heard. Love should never feel like a battlefield, Benita. It should feel like a place where both people are willing to protect each other's hearts.
Richard, I've been thinking about the conversation we had the other day, and I feel like you might be underestimating how serious this situation is. When a woman repeatedly expresses that she feels unheard and unappreciated, that is not something to ignore.
Marcus, I understand your concern, but I think Benita is being overly emotional about things that are not as serious as she makes them sound. Relationships naturally have disagreements, and I do not see why ours should be any different.
Disagreements are normal, but refusing to acknowledge your partner's feelings is something entirely different. You keep saying Benita is too emotional, but have you ever stopped to consider that her emotions might be trying to tell you something important?
I just do not like the idea of apologizing for things I do not believe are wrong. If I start doing that, it will feel like I am admitting weakness.
Richard, admitting mistakes does not make you weak. It actually makes you stronger, because it shows that you value the relationship more than your ego. Pride can be a dangerous thing when it prevents you from seeing the people who genuinely care about you.
You sound like Benita now. Both of you keep saying the same thing about pride, as if it is some terrible flaw in my character.
It is not a flaw until it starts destroying something valuable in your life. Benita sounds like a good woman who has been patient with you for a long time. If you keep dismissing her feelings, there might come a day when she decides that loving you is no longer worth the pain.
I do not think Benita would ever leave me. She loves me too much for that.
That confidence might be exactly what causes you to lose her.
Richard, I need you to really listen to me today without interrupting or turning my words into something they are not. I have spent so much time trying to communicate my feelings to you, but every time I try, it feels like my voice disappears before it even reaches you. I am not speaking to start another argument. I am speaking because my heart is tired of carrying unspoken pain.
Benita, I am listening, but I hope this conversation will not turn into another long lecture about how I am failing you as a partner. I feel like lately every conversation we have ends with me being blamed for everything that is wrong.
Richard, this is exactly why I struggle to talk to you. Instead of trying to understand why I feel hurt, you immediately assume that I am attacking you. I am not trying to destroy you with criticism. I am trying to save a relationship that means a lot to me.
And I have told you many times that I believe this relationship is fine. I do not understand why you keep acting like we are standing on the edge of disaster.
Because I feel it, Richard. I feel the distance growing between us every day. When I speak about my feelings, you respond with pride and defensiveness instead of compassion. Do you know how painful it is to feel like the person you love does not value your emotions?
Benita, you are expecting me to react in ways that are simply not natural for me. I am not the type of person who constantly analyzes emotions and apologizes for every little misunderstanding.
I am not asking for endless apologies. I am asking for effort. I am asking for the kind of respect that shows you value the relationship enough to reflect on your behavior when your partner is hurting.
I already do enough in this relationship. I do not see why I should have to change who I am just to satisfy expectations that seem unreasonable to me.
Richard, growth is not about losing yourself. It is about becoming better for the people who matter in your life. If loving me does not inspire you to grow, then maybe I have been fighting for something that only exists in my heart.
You are making things sound far more dramatic than they actually are.
Maybe it only feels dramatic because you refuse to see how serious it has become for me. Benita, when you called me and said you needed to talk, I could hear the exhaustion in your voice. You have always been someone who tries to stay strong even when things are difficult, so the fact that you sound this tired tells me the situation with Richard must be affecting you deeply. Maya, I feel like I have been pouring love into a relationship that slowly drains my spirit instead of nurturing it. Every conversation with Richard leaves me feeling like my emotions are an inconvenience to him. That must be incredibly painful, especially when you have invested so much of your heart into the relationship. But tell me honestly, Benita, do you still feel hopeful that things will change? I used to believe that patience and communication could fix anything. I believed that if I kept expressing my feelings honestly, Richard would eventually understand how much his pride was hurting us. But now I am starting to feel like my words are falling into a place where they will never be heard. Benita, sometimes the hardest truth we face in love is realizing that someone we care about deeply is not ready to become the partner we need. That does not mean you failed. It simply means the other person refuses to grow. I keep remembering the early days of our relationship when Richard used to look at me like I was the most important person in his life. He used to listen to me with genuine attention, and his kindness made me feel safe. I do not know when that version of him disappeared. People sometimes change when comfort replaces effort. When someone becomes too confident that their partner will never leave, they stop appreciating the love they are receiving. That is what hurts the most. I feel like Richard believes I will always stay no matter how much my heart suffers. And that belief might be the reason he eventually loses you. I never wanted to imagine a future without him, but I am beginning to realize that loving someone should not require sacrificing my own peace.
Richard, I wanted to check on you because you have seemed unusually distracted lately. Every time we talk, your mind appears to be somewhere else, and I cannot help wondering if things with Benita have gotten worse.
She has been distant lately, and I honestly do not understand why. I have not changed anything about the way I behave, yet she acts like our relationship is falling apart.
Sometimes distance is not caused by sudden events. Sometimes it grows slowly when someone feels like their efforts are no longer appreciated.
Marcus, you are starting to sound exactly like Benita. Both of you keep insisting that my pride is the problem, but I think the real issue is that she expects too much emotional reassurance.
Richard, let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you truly listened to Benita without defending yourself or dismissing her feelings?
I listen to her whenever she speaks, but that does not mean I will automatically agree with everything she says.
Listening is not the same as hearing. True listening means trying to understand why the other person feels the way they do, even if you initially disagree.
I still believe she is exaggerating the situation.
Richard, I have seen relationships end because one person refused to take their partner's feelings seriously. Pride can make us believe we are protecting our dignity, but sometimes it is actually destroying something far more valuable.
You really think Benita would leave me after everything we have been through?
If her heart reaches the point where staying hurts more than leaving, then yes, she might.
I doubt it will ever reach that point.
Many men say those exact words right before realizing they have lost the woman who truly loved them.
Richard, I asked you to come here tonight because there are things in my heart that I can no longer keep quiet about. For a long time I have tried to be patient with you. I kept believing that if I loved you enough, if I explained my feelings clearly enough, you would eventually understand how much your words and actions have been affecting me. But the truth is that nothing has changed, and the pain inside me has only grown deeper.
Benita, every time you start a conversation like this, it feels like you have already decided that I am the villain in your story. I do not understand why you keep assuming that I am intentionally trying to hurt you.
I never said you were intentionally hurting me. What hurts me is that you refuse to acknowledge that your pride has been damaging our relationship. Every time I try to talk about my feelings, you react as if I am challenging your authority instead of opening my heart to the man I love.
Because it always feels like you are asking me to change who I am. I have always been confident in my beliefs, and I cannot suddenly start questioning everything about myself just because you think I should.
Richard, there is a difference between confidence and pride. Confidence allows you to stand strong in your values, but pride prevents you from admitting when you are wrong or when someone else is hurting because of your actions.
You make it sound like I have done something unforgivable, when in reality all I have done is remain true to myself.
Remaining true to yourself should not mean ignoring the pain of the person who loves you. I have spent months trying to reach you emotionally, but every attempt ends with you defending your pride instead of protecting our relationship.
I think you are expecting perfection from me, and that is simply unrealistic.
No, Richard. I was only expecting effort.
So what are you saying right now? Are you trying to threaten the relationship because I refuse to change in the exact way you want?
I am not threatening anything. I am simply telling you the truth about how deeply hurt I have been feeling.
Then maybe you should learn to accept that not everything in life will happen exactly the way you want it to.
And maybe you should understand that love cannot survive where pride refuses to bend. Benita, you sounded very serious when you asked me to meet you today. I have been worried about you since the last time we spoke. Tell me honestly, What happened after you met Richard? Maya, I realized something during that conversation that changed everything inside me. I realized that Richard is not fighting for this relationship the way I have been fighting for it. Every time I speak about my feelings, he responds with pride instead of understanding. That must have been incredibly painful to accept, especially after everything you have invested in the relationship. It was painful, but it was also strangely clarifying. For a long time I kept hoping that Richard would wake up one day and realize how much his pride was damaging us. But now I see that he truly believes he has done nothing wrong. Sometimes people become so attached to their pride that they cannot recognize the consequences of their actions until it is too late. I have spent so much time trying to save this relationship that I forgot to protect my own heart. Loving someone should not require constant emotional suffering. You are right, Benita. A healthy relationship should feel like a partnership where both people are willing to grow and support each other. And that is exactly what has been missing. I have been trying to build something meaningful with someone who refuses to acknowledge that change is necessary. So what are you going to do now? For the first time in a long while, I am thinking about choosing my own peace instead of continuing to fight a battle that only I seem to care about. That is not a sign of weakness, Benita. Sometimes walking away from a painful situation is the strongest decision a person can make. I never imagined that loving someone would eventually lead me to this moment.
Richard, I've been meaning to talk to you again about Benita. Something about this situation does not feel right to me. You seem confident that everything will work itself out, but I have a feeling things might be more serious than you realize.
Marcus, I appreciate your concern, but I honestly think Benita is just going through an emotional phase. She has always been someone who feels things deeply, and sometimes that leads her to exaggerate problems.
Richard, I hope you are right, but I cannot ignore the possibility that she might be reaching her breaking point. When someone repeatedly expresses pain and feels unheard, they eventually stop trying.
Benita has invested too much in this relationship to simply walk away.
That might be exactly why it would hurt her enough to finally leave. The deeper someone loves, the more painful it becomes when that love is not respected.
I still believe she will calm down and realize that ending the relationship would be an overreaction.
Richard, pride has a way of convincing us that we are in control of situations that are actually slipping away from us.
You keep mentioning pride as if it is the root of everything.
Because sometimes it is. Pride can blind us to the people who genuinely care about us. It can make us believe that admitting fault would destroy our dignity, when in reality refusing to admit fault might destroy the relationship.
You are worrying too much.
I hope I am wrong, my friend. But if Benita finally decides she has had enough, you might realize too late that you lost a woman who truly loved you.
I doubt it will come to that.
Many men believe the same thing until the day they discover that pride has cost them the best person they ever had.
Richard, thank you for agreeing to meet me again. I know that lately our conversations have been heavy and emotional, but there are moments in life when two people must face the truth about their relationship no matter how uncomfortable it feels. I have spent many nights thinking about everything we have been through together, and I realized that continuing to ignore the reality of our situation would only cause more pain for both of us.
Benita, you sound very serious right now, and honestly it worries me a little. I know things have been tense between us recently, but I never imagined it had reached the point where you would sound this distant and reflective. What exactly are you trying to say?
Richard, I want you to understand that what I am about to say does not come from anger or resentment. It comes from a place of deep reflection and emotional exhaustion. For a long time I believed that if I loved you enough, if I stayed patient and communicated my feelings clearly, you would eventually understand how your pride was hurting our relationship.
Benita, we have talked about this many times before. I still feel like you are blaming everything on my personality when relationships are naturally complicated.
Richard, I am not blaming your personality. I am acknowledging the reality that your unwillingness to listen and reflect has slowly destroyed the emotional connection we once had. I have tried to explain my pain to you many times, but each time you responded with defensiveness instead of understanding.
I never intended to hurt you. If I seemed defensive, it was only because I felt like you were constantly criticizing me.
I was never criticizing you, Richard. I was begging you to care about my feelings. There is a difference between attacking someone and asking them to consider the emotional impact of their actions.
So what are you saying right now? Are you saying that everything we built together means nothing to you anymore?
It means a lot to me, and that is why this decision has been so painful. But I have reached a point where staying in this relationship feels like slowly losing myself. I cannot continue loving someone who refuses to meet me halfway emotionally.
Benita, are you saying you want to end the relationship?
Yes, Richard. I believe it is time for me to walk away.
You cannot be serious. After everything we have been through together, you are really going to leave?
I stayed longer than my heart could handle because I truly believed you would eventually see how much your pride was damaging us. But now I realize that waiting for that realization might take a lifetime.
So this is it? You are just going to give up on us?
I am not giving up on love. I am choosing peace.
Marcus, I cannot believe what just happened. Benita actually ended the relationship. She looked at me with calm determination and told me she was walking away. I kept thinking she would change her mind or show some hesitation, but she did not.
Richard, I am really sorry to hear that. I know how much she meant to you, even though sometimes you had difficulty expressing it.
That is the part that confuses me the most. I always believed Benita would never leave. She loved me deeply, and I thought that love was strong enough to keep her here no matter what happened.
Sometimes love is strong, but self-respect eventually becomes stronger. When someone feels unheard for too long, they start protecting their heart.
Richard, I keep replaying our conversations in my mind now. There were so many times when she tried to explain her feelings, and I dismissed them because I thought she was exaggerating. I told myself that admitting fault would make me look weak.
And now how do you feel about that belief?
Now it feels like the biggest mistake of my life. I was so focused on protecting my pride that I did not realize I was slowly pushing away the woman who genuinely loved me.
Pride has a way of doing that. It convinces us that standing firm makes us strong, even when it is actually destroying the relationships that matter most.
Marcus, I wish I had listened to her more carefully. I wish I had taken the time to reflect on my actions instead of immediately defending myself. Maybe if I had done that, she would still be here.
Regret often comes when the opportunity to change has already passed.
I finally understand what she meant when she said love cannot survive where pride refuses to bend. I thought she was exaggerating, but now I see the truth in her words.
Sometimes life teaches us lessons through painful experiences.
And this lesson cost me the best woman I ever had.
Maya, I finally did it. I ended the relationship with Richard. I thought I would feel overwhelmed with sadness, but instead there is a strange sense of calm inside me. That must have been incredibly difficult, Benita. Ending a relationship with someone you once loved deeply is never an easy decision. It was painful, but it was also necessary. For a long time I kept hoping Richard would understand how much his pride was hurting us. I kept believing that if I stayed patient long enough, he would realize what he was doing. And when you realized he might never reach that understanding, you chose to protect your own heart. Yes. I finally understood that loving someone should not require sacrificing my emotional well-being. A relationship should be a place where both people grow together, not a place where one person constantly feels unheard. I am proud of you, Benita. It takes courage to walk away from something familiar when you know it is no longer healthy. Part of me still hopes that Richard learns from this experience. Not for my sake, but for his own growth. Pride can isolate a person if they allow it to control their actions. Do you regret loving him? No, I do not regret loving him. Loving someone teaches us many things about ourselves and about life. But I do regret how long I ignored the signs that our relationship was becoming unhealthy. What matters now is that you chose a future where your peace comes first. Yes, and for the first time in a long while, I feel like I can breathe again.